It is my pleasure now to introduce to you Ohio's 66th Lieutenant Governor, Jon Husted. He leads with a focus on economic and workforce development and has championed the administration's effort to strengthen the economy, use technology to transform the way government operates, and build opportunity for every Ohioan. Lieutenant Governor Husted oversees the Ohio Common Sense Initiative and serves as the director of both the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation and Innovate Ohio. He has a great job. Of all his responsibilities, Lieutenant Governor Husted considers his most important role that as his job as a husband to his wife Tina and a father to Alex, Katie, and Kyle. That's one of the strengths of Ohio, right? Family. Thank you.
Yes, and I get the blessing of having my wife Tina here with me today. So Tina, let everybody know. There you go. So it is, I always start, because I get asked to talk about AI a lot. And I think it's largely because as Lieutenant Governor, I run something called Innovate Ohio. It's something that when I got elected, I told Governor DeWine, it's like, look, I want to focus on technology because I focus on economic development, workforce development, but I want to focus also on technology because in the history of the world, the societies that have been the most prosperous, the states, nations that have been most successful and sustainable are the most technologically advanced. Mostly, for many, many, many thousands of years, it came because of the technology around military actions. And that might be the ability to feed your troops, that might have been steel, that might have been gunpowder, but those who are the most technologically advanced are the ones who win. That's generally something that's true. And at Innovate Ohio, we try to make sure that Ohioans are benefiting from innovation. And a couple of things we've done inside of state government was that we made it so that you don't have to go to a BMV anymore. I mean, everybody loves a good Saturday morning at a BMV, right? Like you can do this all online now. We've made it digital. We now have a digital ID. Literally, you can get an Apple ID. We've got over 250,000 people that have gone to a digital ID. We have eliminated 3.5 million words out of the regulatory code in the state of Ohio, going through with an AI tool to take things that don't need to be in there, to eliminate in-person things that we can do digitally. Like that. We put all of the data. We have all this data. We've Data Ohio now. You can find everything that the state has out there in terms of data. It's on one site that allow people to analyze that data. One of the things that I love that's on there is that you can get the history of every fish stocking that has occurred in the history of the state of Ohio. If you want to go fishing at a lake, you know what fish they stocked in there, you know what to fish for, you know. It's like all of that stuff's available. Things that previously were just out there, but we made it available, okay? And then we started that 6 years ago. And then on November the 30th of 2022, something happened. Does anyone know what happened on November 30th, 2022? It's when ChatGPT was launched. And I remember I was busy around that time, and so I said, okay, over Christmas break, I'm going to sit down and I'm digging into this. And I was blown away about what it could do. I've never seen anything like it. And so the world has changed very, very rapidly with the introduction of these new technologies. And you're seeing businesses from around the globe. If you want to know, businesses were investing in a lot of spaces, right? They've been throwing all their investment into AI and energy right now. That's where the capital's going. I see my friends from Intel shaking their heads here, yeah. Exactly. That's where the capital is being invested in the private marketplace. And so I'm going to ask you, how many of you intentionally on a daily basis use AI? Okay, this is you're like the most advanced crowd I've talked to on this topic. What I describe it as, it's like having another smart person in the room. If you use it, it's an assistive technology that I believe has the potential to be the most egalitarian technology of our lifetimes because it's available to everybody. Everybody can use it. You know, Pat Gelsinger, the CEO of Intel, he's like a really smart guy, but you have the same access to AI as he does because of all these tools that are out there. And by the way, if you don't like the opinion of ChatGPT, you can ask Claude or Perplexity or, you know, hey, this is the answer they get. If we talk about fact check, you can fact check with other AI tools. And then say, are you sure? You can do all of these things and have an actual assistive technology relationship with the AI to help you. And we at the state level have tried to support this through programs that help upgrade the skills of our workforce through programs like TechCred. TechCred in Ohio, for those of you that don't know about it, anybody, any adult in our state can earn an in-demand credential for free through TechCred. And the number one fastest growing credential over the last 6 months has been AI. People are getting it. They're using these resources. We created an AI toolkit for schools so that teachers can have this assistive technology in their classrooms to help them do lesson planning. Because I remember, we know that there was this moment, this freak out moment in education. Well, kids will be able to use this to cheat. Well, they kind of said that about Wikipedia and all of these other things at one time too. Yeah, it's hard. It makes us think differently about it. But if you go to school between 8 and 3 o'clock and we say you can't use it, and then we expect when you graduate or when you leave school that you have access to it, that's not a way to live life. It's not a way to think about it. Let's figure out how do we make it help you as educators and as students to do better. And that's why we created the AI Toolbox, which is available to everybody. I use it often. I used it on the way here today. My staff sent me a quote that they wanted me to prove for a news release. I didn't like the quote. I repeated it back to my phone in my own words that I liked, and then I ran it through my AI to say edit, and it changed 2 words around and sharpened it. Why wouldn't you use it for that? Why would you spend time proofreading something when your general thoughts are there, have it help you improve what it is that you're doing? All of us can do that in our daily lives. And the other day I was asked to speak at an event in Central Ohio about housing. That the people there wanted me to come in and talk about housing and what is it that Central Ohio needs to address the issue of housing. So you know what I asked for? I went in with my AI and I said, give me a list of all of the housing studies that have been conducted about Central Ohio in the last 5 years. And then I found out that there were actually 3 studies in the last year on Central Ohio themselves, and I said, summarize the highlights of these things so that I can make a recommendation to a group of local elected officials. And it did. And it took the data, and by the way, it was literally studies that the people in the room funded, but I'm sure never read. I summarized their own work for them with my AI, told them what they had paid for, and now they'll hear it and not do it anyway, but at least they know. At least they know. But you can do that with anything. And you can ask it to look for, we were talking at lunch, we talked about finding a needle in a haystack. Well, it's finding a needle in a needle stack, finding the exact kind of information that you want within some of these studies or the resources that are available to help you understand how to act more strategically, effectively, and to do it with great efficiency. Because I would have never, ever, ever read those studies. I wouldn't have time. But in seconds, I had a summary and the differences between them and asked them to compare and contrast the data. That's what we can do with it. And I talk all the time about how we need to integrate technologies. It's just amazing too. I think of stories of technology that have occurred just in the 6 years I've been lieutenant governor. I remember the very first week the governor and I were in office, that we went and visited with the CEO of an auto manufacturer who, was asking me what our vision was for Ohio, and I talked about Innovate Ohio and technology. And he said, well, are you interested in manufacturing? You're just talking about technology. I said, well, you just told us that you're focused on automated driving systems in your cars and a conversion to electric, and it seems like you are a tech company because that's what you're doing. You have a computer system is running your car now. And he's like, yeah, I guess that's right. And everything is tech infused. There's nothing that is not. Again, I think it's an assistive technology. I don't think it's a replacement technology, because there's a lot of fear about that. Fear that, hey, this is going to come in and replace me. And I don't think that's right. I'm going to give you a view of what I think is happening in America right now and why we're trying to do Made in America again, right? We say that we can't rely on domestic or on foreign supply chains for the things that we need the most. Chips, military, anything that's essential to our military, anything that's essential to our healthcare system, pharmaceuticals, things like that. We want to do it Made in America. And as I often say, you can't do Made in America without Made in Ohio, because we make all those things, or at least part of it. Like, you depend on it. And if you're going to do Made in America, the key for America to compete with lower cost providers overseas is something called productivity. We got to get more out of each one of us without having you work 12 hours a day. Also keep the fabric of our nation together. I was somewhere the other day where I was talking about this new tool. I'm getting ahead of myself, but like literally you can program machines to do the work while you're not there. Whether that's manufacturing, 3D printing, you name it. It's just like we can do this with things to upgrade our productivity, and AI is such an enhancer of our ability to do that. And I don't know why this story always comes to me when people talk about, well, are we going to eliminate a job? Milton Friedman in the 1970s, he was in China, and they showed him, they wanted to impress him with this amazing public infrastructure project they had. And he went out to show these canals that they were digging to move water into the city. And there were thousands of men out there with shovels digging this trench. And he said, well, why don't they use heavy industrial equipment? It would be so much more efficient. And the gentleman said to him, well, it's because this is a jobs program, and we want to have jobs for people. He said, well, my goodness, if it's a jobs program, you should have given them spoons. That's not how it works. You have to be as efficient as possible, and the key is to make sure that all of you and all the students you touch have those skills so that they can compete. Because for America to be the greatest, most prosperous nation in the world, we have to be the best at innovation. And we have to have a population who has the skills across the board to be able to do this. And Ohio is leaning in on this. We are a state that is going to be the home to AI, at least in the Midwest. Yes, we have Intel who's going to make chips for AI, but we have data centers coming here that are investing billions. There'll be an announcement soon of another data center that's going to be investing in total $24 billion across the state of Ohio. I want to put that in context. Honda's new battery plant that they're building in Southwest Ohio is $3.4 billion, and that's 80 football fields under roof. This one company is going to build $24 billion worth of data centers in Ohio. And what does that also require? It's going to require construction workers, it's going to require electricians, it's going to require HVAC. Those are the people who keep these places running. It's not just the technology that's inside, it's all of the people that service all those other things. And it's going to require a lot of energy. That's why private capital is going into AI, but it's also going into energy. Things like nuclear are going to be around the corner where you're going to see a lot more invested in that. But that's happening in Ohio. So we're leaning in at the education level. We're leaning in at the government level. We're leaning in on the economic development side of things because we don't ever want to fall behind. Don't ever want to fall behind like we did at the later end of the Industrial Revolution, where we stopped innovating as a nation and as a state. And there's so many practical applications for AI in our lives that I'm sure this crowd, given the number of hands that went up, understood. But the benefits that we get from the crowdsourcing from the Google Maps and the Waze and the other tools that are used in our mapping systems where we know whether there's a traffic jam, whether there's not a traffic jam, although we've all lost our sense of direction since those technologies came about. But that's an example. The algorithms that are directing what show you should watch at night based on your habits. But it's also, by the way, not all roses. Some of the algorithms around social media have been targeting our kids in very negative ways that we are going to have to also confront. So it's not all perfect. That's why we need to understand it. We need to develop public policies, practices as families at home, to do things to help both understand it, guide it, and protect against abuses that can occur. But you're going to see this in everything from healthcare monitoring, where maybe you don't have easy access to a doctor, that they can monitor your heart from afar, they can monitor your diabetes from afar. You can have wearable technologies, as some do exist already, to warn you in case some of these things are happening and send you direct information to your doctor. It can help you with personal finance. Maybe you're afraid to ask a question about your retirement or your college funding. It can help you. It's right there. It can answer a lot of questions that maybe you're afraid to ask. I know that I always encourage my kids to use tools like Conmigo, which is an AI assistive learning from the Khan Academy. There are many of them out there. They tell me they don't like it, but hey, they're better at Algebra 2 than I am, so you better ask them if you have a challenge. An example, I'll give you an example of how it's affecting, AI is being used in the lives of Central Ohioans, and you would be in this geography if you recycle. If you recycle right now, most of that recycling goes to a recycling center in Columbus. They have optical scan AI technologies that sort the paper, the plastic, and the glass, move them into the streams that they want them to go, and it can process more than I think it's 100,000 more tons a year. I think that's the number. It's a crazy big number. We'll just put it that way. Don't hold me to the number. A year more, and make it more efficient to do that, which means that it's at a lower cost, that you can get it to a recycler, which goes to a company that I was just at the other day called ADM, that also uses AI technologies to produce drainage pipes. So it's this whole circular thing that happens using technologies to lower the cost of getting the recycled materials to a place where they can use them. And then when they can use them at a price point that makes sense, then they can produce products it just helps everything by creating efficiencies in that process. This is how these technologies are going to be used in the marketplace and how and why we need to be prepared for them. I could go on and on. One of the things that right now on the negative side of this are fake videos that are being produced out there, things that it can undermine the concept of trust. Like I said, I like to sort of the balance of this between what's good and what's bad. There may be a lot of things out there right now that you see that you can't believe. Well, perhaps you shouldn't. Got to be sure of your facts. Don't just jump to conclusions. And all of these things are in the brave new world of AI. And we all have to think, what does it mean to me and my world? How do I prepare children? How do I integrate it into my personal life to maybe create some efficiencies and better quality of life? How do I prepare myself? How do I prepare my workplace for all of these kinds of things? You don't need to know how to program an AI. You don't need to be proficient in that. You just need to know how to ask the right questions. It's literally going back to a skill that we all could use better. How do you ask the right question? If you want to get smarter, you got to ask the right question. But now you have somebody at the other end, or at least a tool at the other end, that can answer those questions more efficiently and effectively than ever before, and has the potential to improve our life, allow our nation to compete, improve the quality of life, and help keep America at the head of innovation so that we can be the dominant economic powerhouse in the world, the dominant military, have the dominant military in the world, and protect the cause of freedom. To me, it all ties together. It's not just my opinion. Ask your AI. So thank you very much for the chance to share some thoughts. And if you have questions, I think I have a couple minutes left here. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you. Yes, Betty.
So,
I loved your presentation, by the way, Betty. You did a great job.
thank you. So Southeastern Ohio has power. How will this administration help us harness some of the economic development across the state to bring more jobs into our region, because we do have resources here that can fulfill the need?
Yeah. Well, one thing that you're correct about power without infrastructure it's got to get there too. It's got to be connected to the source. So all of those things, and that means you have to have a site to do it, which means some of the money that we have to help prepare those sites. If you're going to have economic development, you got to have workforce development so that whatever we're doing is connected to people who actually have the skills for the jobs that will be demanded once that is located. Also, to use AI, you have to have access to broadband. Yes, there are technologies like Starlink that can connect anybody. So wherever you are in the world, basically today, you can get access to high-speed internet with Starlink, although it is expensive. But we are building out more and more broadband all the time. I have a level of frustration because the BEAD funding was passed by the federal government in 2021, and as of today, we still haven't received our first penny to build it out. That's not a joke. It's a tragedy. But we're investing. We're trying to build that out. One of the things that we have done is use tech cred to help develop the broadband technicians. So we have a program that you can become a broadband technician in 3.5 weeks, because we run a program with classes 3 I think some of the institutions that are doing that are represented in this room today, but you run it 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, for 3.5 weeks. You pass the test at the end and you get your certification. So that's how those short-term credentialing programs are working. But all of those things fit together. And we are aggressively trying to get the power generation, get the infrastructure for getting the power to the site, developing the site, making sure the roads are available, making sure the broadband's available, and then the crowning component of this is having the workforce that have the skills that will need to be in place. All of those have to fit together, and we don't pick. This is the thing. Like, we didn't tell Intel that they had to go to where they decided to go. There was one site in the whole state that met the criteria that they spelled out. On a lot of these issues, it's if you have what they want, they will come, but we got to have all those pieces together to get it done. And I'm sure there's something I left out that also goes in there, but that's among them. Dory?
Thanks for being here, Lieutenant Governor. We appreciate that. You talked about AI needing a lot of data center and what's happening in the state here, but the AI center also requires a lot of water, a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. How is the state helping with that process?
So, first of all, we're fortunate that we do have a lot of water, but again, water is the same issue as electricity. You can have all the water you want, but if you don't have water lines and sewer treatment, then you don't have water. So you got to build all that infrastructure to places that already have it. I mean, I will tell you an amazing story from yesterday. I'm kind of backing up to Betty's question, but just to talk about how important infrastructure is. There is a data center that wants to go quickly. It needs 700 megawatts of power, which is about what one power plant would generate. And there's this site up in Northeast Ohio that has all the infrastructure, the substations and the things like that, to deliver that power. There's a 1 million square foot brand new spec building sitting on that property. The deal's not done yet, but they are considering just knocking down a 1 million square foot brand new building to build a data center because they need the power and the infrastructure's already there. That's how fast they want to go, and that's how essential the infrastructure is to it. So if a site doesn't have those things, it's not a what we call a shovel-ready site, ready to go. And so we've been trying to invest a lot of money in building out more of that infrastructure. But water and sewer is largely a local decision, and you need to have, and that's why coming together as a joint water sewer district, I'm getting a little in the details here, gives you the borrowing capacity to build some of these things. So that's where collaboration really matters. Lorain County, they're doing a great job of that up there right now because they missed an opportunity for some big projects, and so they have 17 communities working together to build that out. That's an example. You said that about water. What was your other? And the energy. Yeah, energy is, so data centers need energy 24/7, 365. Solar and wind are nice, but they're not up to the task. And we, at the federal level, are saying get rid of coal, okay? But you got to replace it with something else that can provide energy with those characteristics. Right now, as a nation, we do not have a strategy to do that because we have rules in place at the federal level that create disincentives for people to invest in gas-fired power plants. For those of you that want to check my facts on this, it's Section 111D of the Clean Air Act, where the U.S. EPA is saying by 2032 you must be carbon neutral for any new production you're building that's fossil fuel. Well, that's not possible, and so we're in a difficult spot. Some might invest. We're trying to encourage that, trying to do power purchase agreements and things like that where people just build their own energy for the data centers. But to get that out on the grid, it's complicated. and we're trying to lean in on different nuclear technologies. I don't know if have you seen 60 Minutes this weekend? A lot of news watchers out there on 60 Minutes, right? Bonnie, you'll know about this one. It was there was a news analysis. You know how America has said that Tom knows about the Ukraine. We say that America should be a place where we said that we don't want Russia, who has attacked the Ukraine, to make money, and so we put sanctions, particularly on their energy, the export of oil and things like that. But yet, America is spending $1 billion a year importing enriched uranium from Russia to run our nuclear power plants in America, even though the only place in the country we make it is in Piketon, Ohio. We make enriched uranium in Piketon, Ohio, but we can't get our alignment from the federal government to get it produced there, get it ramped up, and to have it to create a domestic source of that energy. So these are complicated issues. I'm getting very deep into the details, but I think it's worthy of this audience to know that it's not something you can just snap your fingers and it magically happens. There are a lot of regulatory barriers that stand in the way of doing what I think is basic common sense. Supply and demand. When the government gets in the way of supply and demand, then you create a disruption in the marketplace, and then you have these problems. Time. We have one more question, yeah.
Is our administration doing anything to ensure that jobs, I love that you're talking about infrastructure, is there anything that you guys are trying to implement to ensure that Ohio jobs will be put ahead of out-of-state workers to build these infrastructures? Because even if they're a hobby, you have several programs, heavy equipment operations, masons, all of those things. Are our students going to be able to report?
So if you have a apprenticeship, a skill, a certification in construction right now, there are more jobs out there than there are people to fill them.
Is the administration doing anything to ensure that this $24 billion, $28 billion worth of work going to go to Ohio residents and Ohio workers?
Well, you have to be, I mean, first of all, we can't tell somebody who to hire. That would be against the law.
Are there any programs or any kind of incentives put in place by the state administration?
So, I mean, yes, but we have a situation right now in our state where we have more jobs than people. I mean, we literally have, if I talk to any construction company in the state, and I could run through a list of jobs that they would have open that they can't find somebody to fill. I understand what you're asking, but there is no, we just need people to take the jobs. We have the jobs, but do they have the skills? Can they pass a drug test? Because you have to be able to do that to go to work on a construction site. You know, all of those other factors, are they reliable? All of those things seem to be the biggest barriers for people who want to work in that industry. And so we literally have 3 jobs posted on Ohio Means Jobs for every 1 person in Ohio looking for a job right now. And I understand they're not evenly distributed in every county in the state, but if you're connected to Central Ohio, I mean, there's never been this kind of mismatch before where it is an employee marketplace because there's so many opportunities available. So to answer your question, yes, there are a lot of jobs out there for anybody who wants to take one. This $24 billion is not our money, it's the company's money. It's their investment, not our investment. And they contract with Ohio companies to build all of it. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. I think you're having a great conversation, to figure out how you can better use these new technologies to improve the way we all do our work. And I'm excited about a future of our state. I really am. I mean, we for the longest time have called Ohio the heart of it all. And we are once again, because you can't do Made in America without Made in Ohio, because we make the things that people need to live and thrive, from the food you eat, to the cars you drive, to the trucks that deliver it all, to the airplanes that fly, to the steel that undergirds all this stuff, to the chips, and to the data centers that connect us to all of our AI. That's what's happening in Ohio right now. We're seeing billions of dollars of new investments. We just have to be ready for what comes next. Thank you.